Operative Graves reporting in. Researcher, I hope you're doing well. Our department has obtained a transcript detailing the retrieval operation of Anomaly 7019. The following is a summarized account. Chaos Team, Mu-1, main characters, deployed to Site-19 in 1900 hours. The unit initiated a paracausal space-time breach, re-emerging approximately 6 seconds later just outside the facility perimeter. To induce widespread panic and create a diversion, the team leader executed a large-scale noospheric disruption, effectively removing the concept of containment from all Foundation personnel within a 2-mile radius. This resulted in an immediate, uncontrolled, site-wide containment failure. In response, MTF Epsilon 11, Nine-Tailed Fox, was deployed to re-establish control and engage hostile anomalies. Following their deployment, confirmation of the target anomaly's location was relayed, identified as the acting commander of Epsilon 11. Mu-1 advanced to secure it. Notably, Epsilon 11 initiated defensive operations without apparent awareness of their commander's anomalous designation or status as the primary objective. Mu-1 was subsequently engaged by Epsilon 11, supported by a portable Scranton reality anchor, or SRA, which significantly destabilized Mu-1's reality-altering capabilities. 2 Mu-1 operatives were confirmed neutralized during the engagement. Mu-1 countered by altering localized physical laws, rendering the SRA incapable of suppressing excess reality fluctuations. With resistance compromised, Anomaly 7019, still operating in a command capacity at the time of capture, was successfully contained within a PLSC, or Portable Localized Spatial Containment Array. Immediately thereafter, the remaining elements of Epsilon 11 were retroactively excised from baseline reality by the remainder of Mu-1. Mu-1 then initiated a second paracausal space-time breach, returning to the designated black site at 1908 hours. The anomaly, identified as John Volpe's, is scheduled to undergo intensive interrogation and re-education at the direct request of Delta Command. All resulting transcripts will be forwarded to our department upon completion of each session. That concludes today's operational summary. Please, take a seat while I access the archive. Today we're covering SCP-8715. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-8715 is to be placed upon a stand in the center of Site-94's mess hall for Level 2 staff and below. The object is to receive 500 milliliters of water 3 times per day at evenly spaced intervals. Only personnel with Level 2 clearance and below, and Level 5 personnel and above, are allowed to perform this action. Description: SCP-8715 is a 1.23-liter black ceramic vase of indeterminate origin. When any liquid is introduced into the object, it is anomalously diminished at a rate inconsistent with any known form of natural evaporation or absorption. Due to its perceived harmlessness and negligible anomalous properties, SCP-8715 is currently permitted to remain in the common area as directed by Site-94's administrative authority. For experimental data regarding SCP-8715's behavior with various fluids, refer to Test Log 8715. Level 3, Access Only. SCP-8715. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. A mundane vase is to be placed upon a stand in the center of SCP-8715's containment chamber in Site-94. The object is to receive 500 milliliters of water 3 times per day at evenly spaced intervals. Only personnel with Level 2 clearance and below, and Level 5 personnel and above are allowed to perform this action. Individuals with Level 3 or Level 4 clearance are not permitted to access the containment chamber. Upon comprehension of this information, one is forbidden from being in the vicinity of SCP-8715's containment chamber. Description: SCP-8715 is an invisible, selectively corporeal humanoid entity currently residing inside Site-94's lower mess hall. Attempts at communication with the entity have been not only unsuccessful, but detrimental to its containment. Preliminary assessments by the Department of Spectral Affairs suggest SCP-8715 shares attributes with the Diffie. SCP-8715 exhibits a strong cognitohazardous effect. When perceived, acknowledged, or conceptualized within its immediate spatial radius, estimated minimum, square meters. The entity manifests, targets the observer, and initiates a persistent predatory fixation. No subjects targeted by SCP-8715 have survived to date. To mitigate this hazard, all internal records and awareness of SCP-8715's true nature are to be replaced with benign object data, i.e., the description of a mundane vase, to prevent possession. The decoy object was selected for its innocuous appearance and its ability to contain water, which appears to satiate SCP-8715. Level 4, Access Only. SCP-8715. Object Class, Thaumiel. Special Containment Procedures. A mundane vase is to be placed upon a stand in the center of Site-94's mess hall for Level 2 staff and below. The object is to receive 500 milliliters of water 3 times per day at evenly spaced intervals. Only personnel with Level 2 clearance and below, and Level 5 personnel and above are allowed to perform this action. Individuals with Level 3 or Level 4 clearance are not permitted to access the vase in order to keep up appearances. Only the acting Site Director of Site-94 and its leadership staff are allowed to comprehend the following information. Description: SCP-8715 is an invisible, selectively corporeal humanoid entity currently residing within the confines of Site-94. The entity appears to be unable or unwilling to leave the facility on its own. Attempts at communication with the entity have been not only unsuccessful, but detrimental to its containment. Based on observations, it is suspected that SCP-8715 is a kind of genius loci, specifically an Ifrit. Analysis by forensic technicians of the Department of Spectral Affairs supports this theory. The entity exhibits a strong cognitohazardous effect. When perceived, acknowledged, or conceptualized, the entity manifests, targets the observer, and initiates a persistent predatory fixation. SCP-8715's presence has been observed to significantly mitigate the effects of other spectral entities within Site-94. Given its effectiveness and the reduced operational costs compared to standard Foundation countermeasures, SCP-8715 has been authorized for use as a passive containment and defensive measure at the site. It has been advised, however, due to SCP-8715's cognitohazardous properties, all documentation and references to SCP-8715 are to be replaced with analogous information pertaining to a non-anomalous object. This protocol is intended to obscure the entity's true nature and prevent unintended exposure. SCP-8715 requires periodic offerings and the presence of servitors to maintain a passive state. The current containment ritual includes the following procedures. A life-associated liquid must be provided at regular intervals to satisfy SCP-8715's apparent need for vital essence. A ceramic vase, selected for its inconspicuous appearance and capacity to retain fluid, has been designated for this purpose. Water has been determined to be the most logistically and economically viable substitute. Individuals who comprehend the preceding information will have been noticed by SCP-8715, resulting in indentured servitude to the entity. We warmly welcome you to Site-94. Level 5, Access Only. Warning: the following document is cognitohazardous and infohazardous. Unauthorized comprehension may result in unnecessary harm to the reader. SCP-8715. Object Class, Thaumiel. Special Containment Procedures. Avoidance of this documentation is integral to SCP-8715's containment. If engagement with the contents of this file is unavoidable, immediate administration of amnestics upon completion is mandatory. In cases where amnesticization is not feasible, voluntary or Foundation-assisted euthanasia is considered the most viable containment alternative. Personnel without specific clearance or purpose should discontinue access to this file. Description: SCP-8715 is a cognitohazardous, infohazardous, selectively corporeal, and invisible anomalous entity currently localized within Site-94. The entity is non-transient and displays no capability or intent to exit the site perimeter. Attempts at communication with the entity have been not only unsuccessful, but detrimental to its containment. SCP-8715 is theorized to be a Thoughtform, whose manifested characteristics are shaped directly by the perceptions and mental constructs of observers. The potential danger posed by the entity correlates positively with the number of individuals possessing accurate knowledge of its nature or form. Subjects exposed to such comprehension become targeted by SCP-8715. The exact mechanism and consequences of this predation remain under investigation. However, it is to be noted that SCP-8715 functions as a deterrent to spectral entities within Site-94, exerting a dominant territorial influence akin to a major genus loci. In comparison to conventional Foundation methods for managing spectral threats, SCP-8715 has proven markedly more efficient in both efficacy and cost. As such, controlled utilization of SCP-8715 as a defensive and containment asset has been authorized under strict procedural constraints. The Maya Protocol. To harness SCP-8715's capabilities while mitigating associated risks, the following structured cognitive and ritual containment system has been instituted. 1. Conceptual anchoring. SCP-8715 is to be consistently conceptualized as an entity consistent with Abrahamic occult frameworks. The selective cognitive anchor will be that of an Ifrit, based on behavioral patterns suggestive of territoriality and elemental hostility. 2. Binding measures. Once SCP-8715 is anchored to the aforementioned conceptual framework, it is subjective to containment conditions modeled after traditional occult practices. A symbolic offering of life force is to be made at regular intervals. For cost and logistic efficiency, water has been designated a viable proxy for life-sustaining fluid to be presented in an appropriate vessel. The entity is to be granted servitors to tend to its whims, as this is the most cost-effective method to appease it and diminish harm to personnel. To reduce the amount of individuals comprehending the entity in this form, whilst having containment efforts kept in order, only senior administrative personnel, e.g. Site-94 leadership, are to assume these roles. In exchange, SCP-8715 is to exert control over all spectral anomalies within Site-94 and act as a localized defensive force against internal and external threats. 3. Cognitive obfuscation. To reduce risk of hazardous conceptualization among broader Site-94 personnel, a false narrative has been distributed referencing a mundane object. The majority of staff are to remain unaware of SCP-8715's nature. Level 3 personnel, however, are to be provided information to visualize the entity as a lesser form to limit the risk of intensified manifestation, as we are to maintain order in the site. Compliance Notice. In accordance with the Cognitohazardous Mitigation Directive, amnesticization is mandatory upon full comprehension of this document. Failure to comply constitutes a breach of containment protocols. Thank you for your cooperation. This anomaly presents exceptional potential for exploitation by the insurgency. Through a coordinated, large-scale informational assault, its very nature can be weaponized. By broadcasting the anomaly's information directly to Foundation personnel at Site-94, will accelerate its conceptual reinforcement, each act of compression further refining and amplifying its properties. As awareness spreads, the anomaly will become increasingly defined, and consequently, more dangerous. Containment failure is not a possibility, but an eventuality. When it occurs, the protective function this anomaly currently provides to Site-94 will collapse alongside it. I'm going to forward this file to our Department of Metatextual Engineering and Countermeasures for evaluation regarding the feasibility of a targeted disruption operation. That's all for today, researcher. Dismissed.